Recently, I've been testing out the iPhone 16 Pro Max and the Vivo X200 Pro. And today I wanted to compare which one has the better camera capabilities of the two. Both of these cameras have a triple camera setup, with the Vivo having two 50 megapixel sensors and a 200 megapixel telephoto lens, where the iPhone has a triple camera setup, with the main being a 48 megapixel camera, the second one being the ultra wide, which is another 48 megapixel camera sensor, and then we have the 12 megapixel telephoto lens, which is a ×5 zoom. The photo capabilities of both of the phones are really nice. And while I feel that the hardware capabilities of the Vivo are a little bit better than the iPhone 16 Pro Max, but there is a difference in terms of software. The iPhone, as usual, really is strong in that department. It really is focused on that software, where the Vivo is a little bit more based on the hardware with a really nice software attached to it. Essentially, both of those phones create really nice social media ready photos. Both of them have really nice colors, really good looking photos straight out of the camera. But the Vivo is a little bit more color accurate than the iPhone 16 Pro Max. I feel the iPhone 16 Pro Max, once again as always with iPhones, tends to go a little bit more towards the greens and the orange colors, where the Vivo has different styles of photos you can take, which the three modes are gonna make the photo look different. In terms of the iPhone, you can actually shoot in these styles modes. Essentially, the styles are like presets that you can actually edit on the go when taking the photos, so you can have a little bit more customization in that department. I would say that the most important part for me is that the Vivo has that, camera-like photos. It just feels a little bit more like a camera, where the iPhone, on the other hand, is a little bit more for someone that is looking for a social media picture-perfect photo. Something that is going to be maybe not as realistic or just not looking as authentic, but is going to look really good no matter the situation and weather condition. Where the Vivo is going to be a little bit more like a professional camera feeling and just like a real camera photo. But once again, compared to competition, I feel like the Vivo is going in that direction of social media ready photos with nice colors, contrast, high dynamic range, so it's a little bit more towards that iPhone look. Overall, the Vivo has one of the nicest camera capabilities that we've seen this year, and I would say in terms of just the photo department, I feel the Vivo is actually a little bit better than the iPhone. On the Vivo, you have incredible Pro modes, which are just more than the iPhone customization provides. There's also a LiDAR scanner on the iPhone, which sometimes tends to block out the capabilities of the telephoto. For example, if you're shooting out the window and you're taking a photo or a video, it sometimes will block the telephoto lens, making you just use the main camera sensor and digitally zooming in instead of using the better camera that you have. For many, the Vivo X200 Pro will be the best camera phone of 2024, which is saying a lot, knowing that for many, the iPhone is just an incredible piece of camera, and also knowing that there are different phones like the Xiaomi 14 Ultra or the Samsung Ultra series that are incredible in photo department. But I just feel like the Vivo is the most consistent and just the most picture perfect social media ready at the crossroad of a real camera. So it's like a nice in-between of the two. Also, I feel like the Vivo has better low light capabilities. It just performs a little bit better than the iPhone. On the iPhone side, I feel like the main camera sensor, while it's not bad in low light, same thing can be said at the telephoto, but once you switch to wide angle lens, it isn't as good. Essentially, the main camera sensor is the best one for low light, but it's pretty good. Both the cameras can actually shoot in JPEG and RAW, meaning you can take advantage of the RAWs and edit them in post-production. And you can make that photo your own. In terms of portraits, both of them are really good, but for this, I would say that the iPhone is just better. Once again, the iPhone is going for that social media ready photo. You can change a lot of things in the portrait mode, like the lighting itself on the subject or the background, which is a really cool addition, where the Vivo has a really good portrait mode and just uses really good capabilities of the telephoto lens, making it incredible looking. But I would say I prefer the iPhone portrait mode. But I would say that even in photo department as a whole, it's gonna be a personal preference. Which one you prefer and what kind of shots, photos you take on a daily basis, whether you're shooting, how you're shooting, and what you're looking for in the photo. One more thing that I did prefer on the Vivo is the macro capabilities. The macro capabilities on the Vivo are from the telephoto sensor, meaning that it's a little bit more realistic. The proportions of the items or the things that you're actually shooting are realistic and better looking, where the iPhone uses the ultra-wide angle lens for the macro, just making it, okay, it's macro capabilities, but it's not realistic and it's just not as good looking as on the Vivo. I didn't talk about the new button on the side of the iPhone. For some reason I forgot about it when making the video. I didn't forget about it when we did the video and test, but I did forget it when I was talking about the phone. So essentially, the iPhone has a new button on the side, which is like a, let's say like a shutter button. And it's not only a touch sensitive button, it's also a kind of like a press. So you can press it like a normal shutter. See, the thing is, it's a cool idea in the concept, but I feel like it's not something I would get a new iPhone for, just for this feature. Second off, it's not implemented in the way I would actually like it to be. Essentially, it's in the wrong spot. As you can see, it's somewhere right here, so it's on the top. I would personally bring it closer to the edge so that if you're holding it like this, you can touch it like this. And it's a cool feature, maybe not something that is groundbreaking, and many of the things that this is used for can be changed in the iPhone settings alone. You don't have to touch this side, but if you do, it's a cool thing to have. I just feel like it's in the wrong spot. And even worse is if you get a case for the iPhone, it makes it even harder to actually touch it, because now you have to not only, touch a little bit farther, but now the case, if we go into this, as you can see, now the case, even though it has a cutout here, it's just like way inside of it. So it's just making it much harder to use. So in my opinion, this is a cool feature, but just not implemented the way they could do it. It adds in a little bit more controls and you can use it as a shutter button, but I just feel like it's not implemented in the way that really makes it that useful, just not ergonomic, and just, especially with the case, is another thing that is harder to access. So it's a cool feature, just not something I would go over and buy a new iPhone for, and not something that is actually something I'm gonna be using in day-to-day situations. In terms of video performance, both can shoot in 4K 60 frames per second across all of the lenses. And you can actually change between the lenses on the go, which is something that I love when shooting with the phones. I love that you can change between the lenses while filming and not having to end the clip when changing between the lenses. On the iPhone, you can actually shoot in 4K 120 frames per second on the main camera sensor, and the Vivo can do it too. In terms of the flat picture profiles, the iPhone 16 Pro Max has the ProRes mode, which can be used up to 4K 30 frames per second across all of the lenses, or 4K 60 frames per second if you have an external SSD connected to it. On the other hand, the Vivo can actually shoot in 4K 60 frames per second in the log format, and that can be shot on all of the lenses too, meaning that the Vivo has just a much easier to use, ready to go log format compared to the iPhones. But both of them are really nice for color grading in post-production, and I know many are really loving the iPhone's ProRes. Both of these cameras have incredible stabilization. It's definitely on the nicer end of the smartphone capabilities. Both of them have really nice even in a running situation. Overall, both of the phones have incredible video quality. But I just feel like the most consistent is usually the iPhone, thanks to its high dynamic range where nothing feels that it's overblown or too dark, just making everything look a little bit more cinematic, more, professional, because everything is in nice exposure. And even though that might be the capabilities of the camera connected with the software that it has, it just makes everything look really good, really consistent, and just overall the iPhone seems incredible for video making. But the Vivo is very close behind it. I would say it's a really tough comparison because I feel like the two phones have two different sides that I prefer on one or the other. I say that the iPhone is just like my favorite camera in terms of video, but I would say that the photos are gonna be a little bit more of a rough game here. Sometimes I feel like the Vivo might be the better one of the two, while the iPhone is a little bit more of the consistent of the two. So it's a little bit different compared side by side. So it's going to be a personal preference, what you like, how you like the photos to be, and I would say personal preference, what you like in the camera department. Both are incredible and they're both a great pick. So if you're interested in any of them, I can highly recommend them. The difference could be the ecosystem. The iPhone is in the Apple ecosystem, so if you already have devices in that ecosystem, it's gonna be hard to go for the Vivo. But if you're already used to Android system or just have different devices, then the Vivo X200 Pro is a great phone for video and camera capabilities. So it's gonna be, at the end of the day, I feel it's gonna be more about the personal preference, about the ecosystem, more than the camera, because the camera is incredible on both of the devices. If you have any more questions about these two phones, let me know in the comment section down below. With that being said, that is gonna be the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video once again, and I'll see you next time.